What is going on, everybody? Back for Friday college basketball. Finally here. Had some, trouble with the sheet, and then it got late on me last night watching a couple of the games as well. So wanted to knock this out here in the morning and get a quick one out here for you all to kind of watch over for the next 4 hours until lock here. So I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can. Hopefully 30 minutes. Wanted to touch on one strategy piece, probably talking to myself a little more than to you all, because I've seen some definite solid lineups in the Discord yesterday. But I just went a little too chalky yesterday. I think that's what ended up getting me in the 2-2-2 and not cashing was just a little too chalky. Still got to treat those, of course, as GPPs. I think I was actually duped a few times by a few guys that I do respect in the industry, but did not want to definite dupe in a 200 man. So myself looking for a couple pivots today that we'll be going to. So I'm going to hop right in. Let me post one more link here in the chat. Right. Wanted to touch on betting. We'll also have our betting sheet updated here probably in the next hour and a half or so. I'll post some bets today. I'll talk through some as we go through. Had an awesome start to the day yesterday. The nightcap from 9 on was abysmal. Lost a few games there. Tennessee kind of squandered a double-digit lead, and then I was just completely wrong on A&M versus Penn State, and also the UCLA North Carolina Asheville game. I had plus 17.5. Both of those were complete misses by me. So gonna hop right into the DFS slate. Gonna kind of touch on some interesting spots. The early game that is the biggest pace would be Xavier and Kennesaw State, 154 total, 12.5 point spread, 83.70 implied points there. Michigan State is the first game minus 1.5 against USC, 137.5 total. Lowest total on the slate is in this early window, St. Mary's and VCU. This is going to be just a slow dragger of a game. St. Mary's loves to slow it down, 122.5. Probably not looking at anything in that one. Baylor, UC Santa Barbara, minus 10.5 spread for Baylor, 141.5 total. The other big spreads are Gonzaga and Grand Canyon. That's 85.69 with a 155 implied total there. Memphis FAU is going to be a good one there. So I'm going to hop right in to these. I'm going to go game by game much quicker than I did yesterday. I do have some initial highlights in here. I will likely be updating these, and of course maybe even as we go here on the show a little bit, as well as afterwards I'll be doing finishing highlights and putting ranks up like I did yesterday. Let me see here. So we're going to start out with Michigan State. Michigan State in this first game of the day doesn't rate out very well for me. I don't love this game really at all. Probably will fade it myself in this one lineup. If I was going to anybody, I would go to Tyson Walker. I mentioned on the bracket breakdown show that I do kind of like Michigan State here, and it's all because of the backcourt. So if I'm going to take that stand, I'm going to be going to the backcourt, if anybody, for a Michigan State. But otherwise, really no interest. USC, pretty similar to me here. I think you can play. There are a couple more plays. I'm actually going to highlight Morgan as a GPP look. but Boogie Ellis and Drew Peterson lead this team in the backcourt. Boogie has just been on fire. Drew Peterson has been nursing a little bit of an injury lately. I don't really love the price points on either one with the added risk that you have there. Joshua Morgan, 5,100 GPP shot. We like to target bigs against Michigan State. Talked about that a little bit on the bracket breakdown show as well. I think, that would be my main look for USC. So not a lot in that game. Probably skipping it in my main lineup personally. Xavier, Kennesaw State. This one here you can definitely take some shots. Fremantle is of course out. Colby Jones, Solly Boom, and Jack Nunge are the big three here for Xavier now. Jones would be my preferred. Boom can get hot in GPPs, so he would be that look. Nunge is their big man down low. If you wanted to take a shot on him, I have no problem. Adam Kunkel is a three-point shooter, averaging, of course, 6 shots per 40, shooting almost 40% on the year. I think you can take a shot on him. He rates out pretty well at 6,300 in this pace of a game, so definitely like a look on him. On the Kennesaw side, definitely going to have some interest here. Youngblood and Burden would be the main two guys projection-wise. It's Burden definitely for me, 6,500. And then Stroud rates out decently as well. Desmond Robinson would be a GPP look at 5,800. But again, this is a super fast-paced game, 12.5 spread, but they're still implied for nearly 71 points. So I think if you want to take a shot on them, I have no problem. If you play, some of this Kennesaw team, definitely go to the other side. Okay. Baylor and UC Santa Barbara. Baylor, not a ton of interest here. Key George would be my main look, but he even doesn't rate out that well. So pretty much, going to skip them, even though they're implied for 76. UC Santa Barbara. AJ Mitchell rates out very well at 7,600. I think you can certainly take a shot on him. Pretty big minutes, of course, share. Interesting, for tournaments that you can take a shot. Baylor's not that great defensively. UC Santa Barbara does slow it down, so I don't want a ton in this game overall. But AJ Mitchell at 7,600 is a decent pivot in that range, so I wouldn't mind getting to him. He's one of those guys that if I get to the last spot and I have a fairly chalky lineup and he kind of falls in as kind of a pivot there, I think he'd be a solid play. St. Mary's and VCU, I'm likely just going to skip this game. I'm going to just make sure projection-wise, Dukas looks decent, but I'm not touching St. Mary's and VCU. Yeah, Baldwin's just too high price for me. Not going to touch this game at all, so I'm going to quickly skip on by. Marquette and Vermont. Marquette's a 10.5-point favorite here. Marquette, they of course have Tyler Kolek. He rates out pretty well, but 10K, I would likely want to play TJD or Edey at that price, but he might make for a decent pivot. Cam Jones would likely be my more interesting play there in that mid range as well, 7,500. Cam Jones can get hot, rates out pretty well as well. On the Vermont side, Robin Duncan, Dylan Penn, both rate out very well in this matchup at 6,400 and 5,200. I would much rather, play Duncan here. I think, he has a very solid floor in most matchups. So rating out over 5X, I'll definitely have, some shots on him, Penn as well. Moving on, we have Iowa State and Pitt. Iowa State, you've got Jaron Holmes leading the charge for them at 6,900 is in play. Lipsey would be in play as well at 5,900, kind of initiates their offense at point guard, so don't mind him at all. On the Pitt side, still really no priorities. But on the pit side, Burton would be the preferred pay up. As if I'm paying down, it's Greg Elliott at 4,700, rates out very well in 33 minutes. And then the Diaz Graham brothers there, both rate out, Grilamo is the one who started in the last game, so I would much, prefer him. And 4,500 is a very fair price. Creighton and NC State. I like this matchup. I actually think you could take some GPP shots in this one at like a game stack. It's a 148.5 total. Kalkbrenner and Nimhard would be my preferred. Trey Alexander as well. I'm going to go ahead and change Alexander and Nimhard to core pieces. You could take a shot on Shireman, but I really don't want to pay up. Kalkbrenner should eat down low against NC State, but all three of those guys are squarely in play. On the NC State side, you've got Turk Smith and Jarkel Joyner leading the charge. I think one of those two are decent GPP looks. As Joyner has emerged through the year, it's kind of took away from some of Turk Smith. Jack Clark would be actually my preferred play there for them at 5,800. He stepped in, back from injury, playing a lot more. Dewara looks like he will start. I think it was Gant is going to miss. So Gant looks like he's going to miss. So Dewara would rate out as a decent value there as well. So I do like NC State to keep this close, which means that you could definitely play some of both sides, play a Jack Clark, run it back on the other side with one or two of the Creighton pieces, or you could play like a Turk or Joyner, and then run it. Definitely, if you're doing that, run it back on the other side with some Creighton pieces, because you want this game to just shoot out if Joyner or Smith are getting there. UConn and Iona, fairly, slow-paced game. UConn, Sonogo is definitely in play down low. I had him as a core last night when I did highlights. Not really going to do that here. I prefer Tristan Newton. If going at 7K for 1,200 discount, he can get hot. Shooting, Jackson is kind of the fill the stat sheet guy. So he's in play, as well. On the Iona side, not much is there. I'm likely skipping Iona with a tough matchup against UConn. Purdue and Fairleigh Dickinson. Purdue, Edey, of course, is one of the decision points here on the slate against TJD, in my opinion. If you want the 1,200 discount, I guess you can go to Kolek, but these guys could just absolutely smash. Edey, even in 30 minutes, he's looking like, a very solid play, projecting for 47. Braden Smith, 6,500, and Brandon Newman both rate out as second, actually point per dollar better than Edey, but secondary plays on this team. I think both are in play. But, man, this game could definitely get to a blowout and really hurt, some of these starters' value. I think personally, as of now, I lean towards the TJD side because I think that game will be a lot closer. We'll get there in a minute. Fairleigh Dickinson, I'm skipping. Let's see, Kentucky and Providence would be the next game. On the Providence side, you've got Bryce Hopkins, who would be a GPP look. I like them to win this game. That's probably one of the bets that I'll make, +4, and maybe the money line there. I like Providence. Not much from a DFS perspective, though, unless you're paying up for Hopkins. On the Kentucky side, you're looking at, Oscar, decent play. I think he's got a tough matchup, though, with Crosswell. Cason Wallace could get hot. Reeves rates out as the best point per dollar, projection-wise on the slate. Not a lot I like in this game. I think if you want to take a shot on Hopkins or Cason Wallace, do so, but really don't want tons of exposure to it. Miami and Drake. Miami, you, of course, got the question mark with Norchad Omier. Looks like he's going to give it a shot, but how many minutes will he really play? So definitely out on him at 8,800. Jordan Miller rates out pretty well. He's been their do-it-all guy. He's going to play pretty much the whole game. So definitely like Jordan Miller here. Nigel Pack, I prefer him greatly to Isaiah Wong with the 1,300 difference. And then you've got Wooga Poplar at 5,500 rating out, pretty well in there as well. So really GPP looks for me. On the Drake side, I think is when we get into some plays that I really like, and it's 7,700 Tucker DeVries. Rates out very, very well. Along with teammate Roman Penn, I think you can play both. Very fair price points. Darnell Brody would be the next, favorite play for me inside there. I think you could definitely get to him as well. But Penn and DeVries are likely priorities for me on this slate. Gonzaga and Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon, I'll start on that side. Looks like I had an issue there with the import on Ray Harrison, but he would definitely be a very solid play. Let me see if I can get that fixed. Mentioned I was having trouble on the back end, and let's see. Sorry, guys. Anyway, maybe I'll touch on that when I come back. But there's some definite interesting options in a pace spot here for Grand Canyon. Harrison, McLaughlin, both are fine plays in that 6K range. Chance McMillan rates out his best point per dollar at 5K. I think he's very in play. And then you could play one of Knox or Ellis there in the under 4K range. I think both are decent plays there as well. On the Gonzaga side, again, this is pretty much, we talk about this every slate with Gonzaga. They need to be pushed. This game needs to stay close. If you want Drew Timme to smash or Julian Strother to smash, Strother would definitely be my preferred here at 7,600. Rates out very well in 35 minutes. Drew Timme, even at 33, is not really doing it for me. I think, again, if you want to like game stack this up, I think you could do so. Let me check something. Go back to Grand Canyon. So Ray Harrison would be a priority for me. Here rating out over 5X. Then Chance McMillan would be second. McLaughlin right there as well, 6,500. So that's kind of how I rank Grand Canyon. Timme, again, not really getting there unless you think it stays super close. Hickman and Strother, decent, plays there. Memphis and FAU, 4 games left here. Going to keep it moving. Memphis definitely rates out very well. I like this matchup, pace up, but they priced up, of course, our favorite plays quite a bit. Chandler Lawson would be, a decent value look there, not a priority. Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams, though, are very solid in that 9K range. Are you able to fit them with a TJD or Edey? I don't know. But I think you can play one of the two and feel pretty confident in that. They're going up against FAU, who has Jonell Davis, 7,200. Very good play there, as well as Elijah Martin, 6,600. If you need the 600 discount, go ahead, rating out 4.6. No really other plays there, but this is a very, very good pace in this game. I think we could definitely see some solid fantasy goodness here. Montana State and Kansas State. We've had Kansas State on the slate a lot this year. I don't think I'm getting to them here. 140 total, 8-point favorites. Noel and Key Johnson are just a little too overpriced for me, and I rarely ever play anybody else on that team. So just really not going to get there for me. For Montana State, there is a priority play, and it's Raekwon Battle, who has a 30% usage rate on the year. I think he is pretty underpriced at 5,400. If you want to, take a GPP shot on like a Darius Brown, I don't really have a problem. But Ray Battle is by far my favorite play in this game, and I'm really a priority on the slate as well. Indiana, we'll go ahead and get to this one. Indiana, Kent State, 4.5-point spread here. So Kent State, has looked to push them 11K. That will be the tiebreaker, I think, right as of now between Edey and TJD, is the fact that it's a close spread. TJD should eat here in max minutes, 37 to 40, depending on the game flow. I think he is the top option. If you're not playing TJD, at least consider Jalen Hood-Schifino at 7,500. You likely, TJD has an off game. Somebody else is going to be picking up the slack. So Hood-Schifino would be that guy for me. On the Kent State side, no real priorities. I like Sincere Carey overall, but even in full minutes, he's not, doing it for me in this matchup. Malik Jacobs would be my favorite play on that side, or Myron Thomas at 6,200 if you need the discount. But probably, last guy in pivots for Kent State. But even though I like them to maybe even pull the upset here, DFS wise, it's Indiana for sure. Last game of the night, TCU going up against Arizona State, who was just unconscious shooting. No real favorable prices for TCU. Mike Miles has just not really been the same since he came back from injury. Still my favorite play on that side. In GPPs, of course, could get hot at any moment. So I would look to him. If you need a late pivot, you get to the 9 o'clock window, you're behind or something. Maybe you pivot to something in this game like a Desmond Cambridge, who can get hot as well. He would be my favorite play off of ASU. So really no priorities. When I'm building this morning, I'm not prioritizing Arizona State. But if I get to the late, or TCU, if I get to the late 9 o'clock games and I need to pivot because I'm behind, or I'm trying to, pivot away from what I know somebody has right in front of me in a GPP, then I want to try to jump them. Definitely could look at pivoting to one of these guys, but really that's the main thing I'm looking at. So I'm going to sort the sheet just by point per dollar so you all can see, that. Of course, I have most of those highlighted if they're rating out 5X, but Ray Harrison, Roman Penn, Tucker DeVries are very much priorities on this slate for me. If I want to get a 3K guy and be able to comfortably fit in like a TJD or Edey, I think DeWara makes some sense down there, filling in for NC State going up against Creighton. So that's kind of, my brief overview of the slate. Wanted to do it quick, get it out for you guys. So if you have any questions, hit me up in Discord. Hopefully we have a very strong day. Betting wise, wanted to touch on a couple. I kind of did as we went. I will finalize this and post in chat and also on our betting sheet. But I am personally right now looking at Michigan State in the early game, -1.5. NC State, I kind of like the +5 there. And these are just leans again. Make sure you finalize in chat what I actually end up on. Providence +4 I like. I was going to have a look on either the Drake or Miami side, but depending on O'Meara. But right now I've kind of soured on that, game as far as betting. From a betting perspective, I think the line is too low if O'Meara plays. Obviously, we're not going to know, how limited he is. If for on the Drake side, it's just a little too low of a spread now for me. So that's where I'm at on that one. The Memphis FAU game's a toss-up. I really don't have a super lean either way. Indiana, Kent State, I don't really have a lean there at 4.5. And then the TCU game, don't really have a lean either. So those are the main ones I'm looking at. Michigan State, NC State, and Providence are the main three for me so far today, that +4. Good luck to everybody. Hit me up in chat if you need, have any building questions. I'll be in there over the next, few hours answering those. I'll have ranks up here probably around 11 Eastern, about an hour or so before lock. So we'll talk to you in chat. Good luck to everybody today.